No matter whether you're a GM or a player, it's time for a change. This video is going to be in two parts. The first part covering the big issue with the D&D community's pressure upon DMs, and the second, and much smaller part, is going to be covering ways on how to try and fix it. And try being the optimum word. Also, while I'm saying D&D and DMs, you can apply this logic to any game that needs a GM and players. It's just that with D&D's explosion in popularity, all of this discourse is happening around the most prominent game in the genre, which, of course, is D&D, and it is happening in the D&D community. And also, as we talk about fixing the DM problem, this video isn't going to be full of a bunch of psychology tricks, ready to trick your players into wanting to be a GM, because it's not about that. D&D, as I said, and you probably all know, is a game with a DM and players, and the roles that those two guys have are quite different. On one side, we have the players, who are just supposed to come along, show up, and have fun. And on the other side, we have the DM, who is supposed to work, stress, lose their mind prepping the game so the players have fun, otherwise they failed. Now, if you didn't bat an eyelid or flinch at any point during that description, you have failed the test. Being a player does not have the inherent role of getting to be a freeloader, just chilling out because, oh, I've had a hard week. Meanwhile, the DM is not supposed to be the guy that prepares a bunch beforehand, then comes along to the same session while you're having fun, and then stressing out for 4 hours straight. And listen, some of you will hear that and go, well, obviously. And if you did, good job. But I say that because there are people out there that would heavily disagree. The Forever DM is a person who usually DMs and wishes they could get the chance to play, but no one in their group will DM for them, so they just feel trapped. Their players just don't want to run, and now, when these people are considered to be friends at this point, they've played so much and had so much fun, the players realise that they've secured quite a nice, sneaky place at the table. And now, all they need to do is just keep their head down and hope their DM doesn't say, I want to play too. But if they do, well, we don't, so I guess you have to. Or that'd be awkward for our friend group, and you don't want to make things awkward, right? And if you didn't, then there'd be no more games, so when's the next session? Some of you watching will be like, what do you mean? I love running the game. I don't mind running the game. That's fine. That means you're not a forever DM. A forever DM doesn't want to run the game forever. They don't want to be the forever DM. It's not fun to be the forever DM when you don't want to be. D&D burns through DMs, a topic that's been covered so much online that I just don't want to go over it again. You've probably heard every single detail, so it'd just be like rubbing a wound, so it's no wonder that there are so few people ready and willing to be a DM. Don't believe me? Okay, here's what you're gonna do, alright? Whatever group that you're playing with right now, ask them in the group chat, it's gonna be in a group chat, let's be honest, hey guys, for those that don't or used to not GM, what makes you not want to or made you not want to GM? After asking this question to a bunch of different groups and seeing a bunch of stuff online, in response to basically the same question, I'd like to cover the 3 most common responses to really highlight the forever DM issue that I'm talking about, and try and address those things today. A fairly common one, I just don't know where to start. Do you think we did? Every GM starts their journey wanting to play a game, but because they have the most affiliation for that game out of their entire friend group, they are the ones that take up the mantle of GMing. When I started, I ran the most backwards game of D&D, but still, I ran it. I was no expert, and you won't be when you start. And that's okay. Who told you that you had to start like a pro? No one starts like a pro. I didn't, you didn't, your favorite person didn't. No one starts like a pro. How do you start? You start. In fact, one of my friends recently was put in a bit of a bind as she had to DM in order to keep playing after their DM left the group. And they were afraid at first, but now they run their game every week like a champion, no fear. I've always said you have to treat it like jumping into a pool, because once you're in, you're fine. All that build up, all that worry, and then you're in and you realise, oh, it's actually cool. It's fun to learn, it's fun to experiment and find out how simple it is to GM. I don't know the rules. Yeah, I know. Because I've run a year-long campaign with you, and you refuse to learn how your own character works, never mind the rest of the game, despite how much we've said, just learn your character. You're playing a rogue, not a air traffic controller! If you've been playing the game for quite a while now, not just a beginner, and you think that the GM is just supposed to fill in the blanks when you refuse to learn how your own character works, then you sound like a piece of shit. Yeah, to be a GM, you're gonna need to know how the game works. D&D, despite it being everyone's favourite hobby, is fairly complex. Unless you play it like how most people do, which is just make it up after hearing someone explain the basics in a fucking YouTube short. Playing things like D&D and Pathfinder, they're quite complex as far as TTRPGs go, but if you play something like Morkborg, it's much simpler and much more freeform. You can get into GMing that way, and then try out the more complex ones with the help of your friends. Not knowing where to start, and not knowing the rules, these can be solved. What can't be solved is the third response. It's too much effort. And this is the response that really gets under my skin. Because just sit back and ponder your sentence. You're unwilling to put in effort. Why? What? Because it's a game? What about your DM? You must think they are an absolute idiot, right? I mean, what, putting effort into a game that you need them to do so you can play the game? Can't put effort in, but it's not like you come away from your gaming chair leaving a sweat patch wetter and stinkier than a blocked sewage drain from playing WoW for 6 hours. And listen, before anyone jumps up my ass about this, there are some people who just don't have time. I understand. Maybe you're a single parent, maybe you have 2 jobs, that kind of thing. I'm talking about those without strain. They want to do nothing and then come along to game night and expect an effort-free experience. Meanwhile, the DM is expected to perform for you, bust their ass for you. What a guy. And some GMs watching this video will say, I don't mind, I just love to GM. To the players who are with those GMs and think it's too much effort, you are so damn lucky. Because God forbid they thought, wait, you'd never put in effort for me. I'd never play because you would never return the favour. Well, why should I do that for you? Why should I give you everything if you want to give me nothing? In fact, if you would never put in the effort, you think it's too much effort, then cool, one sec. Alright, next week we're going to play Cyborg. You would love it, it's a great game, it's good. What, you don't like that? Alright then. You get behind the screen then. If you're a player, you might not have much to prepare for in session, but the best players plan between sessions, think of stuff for their character and ways to create cool moments with other characters, and at the very least, know how their character works. And also, before you even consider leaving a comment saying that I'm being ableist, because what if the person has autism or ADHD or some physical condition or some other condition that you haven't mentioned yet that prevents them? Just shut up, alright? In every group that I have run with, someone has had one of those things, and I've never turned to that person being like, when are you gonna put in some work, son? I understand, alright? And in fact, it's been those players that have brought their A game to every single session, and some of those players have went on to become fantastic GMs. This is the issue. Being too scared is just a confidence thing, but it's the players that willingly object to the idea that they'd ever put in effort to let their GM have a chance at fun. It's unfair, it's selfish, and someone, online probably, has led you to this idea that yes, the DM is supposed to run because they love it, and would run forever because they love it, and they would never tire of it because they love it, and the players will never let them have a break because they love it. And I thought you loved it too. We love it too, but we need you to love it forever so we can have our own little wind-up game, man. Forever. So, what do we do? Well, regardless of what game you're playing, GMs, if you feel overworked or that your players are just being unfair, you have to directly say this. No amount of top 5 tips and tricks can solve it. Have some self-respect and be upfront with your wants and needs. You don't have to be mean about it, just say, guys, I want to play. Your players might say no, and if they do, then well, see if you can work out a compromise. Or just say, okay, if you guys don't want to run, then I'll find a DM that I can play with. Beyond that, if they're concerned about the rules, then suggest that they play a more simple game like Morkborg, Brindlewood Bay, Goblin Quest, Everyone is John, or Honey Heist. For those that wouldn't know where to start, get them thinking in terms of descriptions by asking them to describe their actions with sensory details like you do for them. They're on the way to GMing like you do. If that doesn't work, see if you can get them around the table to play what I like to call gateway drug games like Microscope to help them realise how fun it is to make your own setting, or Goblin Quest again to practice describing action resolutions like a GM does. Otherwise, just show the players what you do. Maybe you finish a campaign or a couple of games and then you bring them behind the screen to show them what you do and your process in the game. Get them behind the screen, show them your notes, show them that it's not just a bunch of prep before the session, and a lot of the game is the magic that happens in the session. Show them these videos, see how simple it can be to be a GM and prep. It really doesn't take much at all. All this forever DM stuff is just DMs with too much kindness in their heart to say no to their players. Meanwhile, the players just give, let's be honest, really lame excuses as to not wanting to DM. I mean, think of it this way. If you were a player and you think GMing would be awful, why do you willingly subject one of your friends to doing it? Like sacrificing one of your friends' own happiness for the sake of your own. And listen, as I record this video, I already know there are going to be comments telling me this and that, or that I'm wrong, or it doesn't happen, or some other excuse to attach moral to the misery, or that you would gladly be the forever DM. Well, 1, it does happen. 2, treat your friends with respect. And 3, good for you. Have all my fake points. How about you be considerate of other people's feelings, wants, and their situation, instead of just humble bragging in my YouTube comment section. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, leave a comment, and why don't you watch some of my other videos, like the one that's on screen right now. I love you all, be considerate, be kind, and I'll see you next time.